Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, December 26th, 2024 still. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. We start today's show with a full house. If you were here on Wednesday for our Christmas Eve extravaganza, right before we went to air, the dean was called to duty as Ethan Onianwa from Rice transferred or committed to Ohio State verbally, whatever you want to do it. And Bill had to hop on and cover that and get back on. Now we all got to enjoy a wonderful holiday, I hope, and we go from there. Gentlemen, quickly, Mark, I saw that you sent your children away from the house for Christmas, kind of a date Christmas with your wife. How's that work out?
Yeah, the brother-in-law took them to see the Steelers and Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes was the Grinch. They were Steelers fans, and yeah, but what a fun day for them. They got to go on the field and they got some autographs, and I think TJ Watt signed a jersey for him. So talk about putting a smile on a kid's face for Christmas. Definitely nice. And then it's one of those things where I'm just going to take a nap, and whenever I wake up is fine. You know, you don't have it's got to be a 15-minute nap. It was just like, let's enjoy the games on TV and enjoy a quiet Christmas. You don't get to do that once you have kids.
Both NFL games were blowouts yesterday. Maybe we should change the NFL playoffs. That's crazy. Just kidding. Football games happen. Bill, was it a grandchildren laid petri dish as always?
Not so much yesterday, just one grandchild, but that was the calm before the storm. We actually are having our big family Christmas today. We will have, we'll have 5 grandchildren, but actually 7 because we have 2 more coming starting at the beginning of March. So
Not
5
twins.
actually living grandchildren outside of their parents right now, and then 2 more kind of will be there too. So 7 altogether.
Twins, Bill?
No, one my son and his wife, they are expecting in early March, and my daughter and her husband are expecting a little after that. So it's going to be a little crazy. It'll be 7 grandchildren by the time spring rolls around.
Divide and conquer. It's kind of interesting
That's for sure.
We have, when this podcast started, Bill, you know how many grandchildren you had? 0. So the Bucknuts Morning 5, soldiers on.
Yep.
All right. There was a question from Mika who is, good Lord, no holidays for Mika. Did we land Josh Thompson? So Josh Thompson, maybe the first name that came up, Bill, when the portal got rocking. Our guy wanted out of Northwestern and fast. His name was in the portal lickety split. Very good offensive lineman, going to play inside in college. If you remember, we discussed this at length. My personal wish list, as I talk too much here, was Ethan Onianwa, Philip Daniels, and Josh Thompson. Bill, 2 out of 3 on Christmas for Dan. It looks like, at least.
If you would have told me 2 weeks ago that Ohio State would get 2 out of those 3, I would sign up for that.
Yep.
The trifecta would certainly be fantastic, but 2 out of 3. And to be honest, I think Josh Thompson of the 3 is absolutely the most game ready, plug in, absolutely no doubt guy. But still, Onianwa fills a huge need at tackle, and Phil Daniels does too. So, you can't complain about that. And we'll see what happens with Josh Thompson. He has not said yet. And that's interesting to me because I talked to, after he finished his official visits, which the last one, he went to LSU. But after he finished his official visits, I talked to someone very much in tune with what he was going to do, or, with his recruitment, let's say that. And they really told me that they didn't know. He wasn't giving any hints whatsoever, but they felt like he would decide and announce before Christmas in all likelihood. That hasn't happened. So, you kind of wonder a little bit, is he just being extra sure, or is he unsure? And, the Tennessee board, as you've mentioned, Dan, Tennessee people seem confident. But he hasn't been confident enough, at least yet, to announce anything publicly.
It depends. There's people out there who are really high on some of the other guys. Mark did not want to be asked that question.
Mark just disappeared.
Maybe his kids walked back in the room and needed a little more free time. All right. I actually was the guy I am highest on is Oni Onwa. I think that what we're getting when they rank transfers, how much time you have left is one of your advantages. So Oni Onwa only has 1 year left. There are people out there. If you guys remember Tom Luganbill, good Lord, when we started, we were affiliated with ESPN, Bill. Remember that about 15 years ago? And Tom Luganbill was our guy. Tom Luganbill's quote on Ethan Oni Onwa was, by far the best tackle. Can't believe he didn't enter the draft. The thing about Oni Onwa that I'd like is I think he can play left tackle. Whatever, they've added great depth at both tackle spots, and who knows with Thompson, things could matriculate or materialize. But he was going to play inside, and I think we've learned this year, we've had to learn something we already knew, and that is, Mark, you can disagree with this. I am more about getting tackles than guards. Your thoughts?
I won't disagree with that. That was Dwayne Long. We should invoke his name. He was a big believer in the tackles, kick down theory, and it wasn't just Dwayne's belief. It was a lot of smart offensive line coaches in the NFL. You buy the longer product with the longer arms, and that's what offensive line plays largely about, is reach and punch and getting to people and their arms not being as long as yours, and really simplifying the game to those type of metrics. Where if you have a 6'2" guy, the sawed-off arms, they really got to be good with their technique and hand placement and leverage and stuff like that. The longer guys seem to get away with more. And if they don't work out because they're not quick enough feet, they go to guard. I mean, is there anything there that would be hard to disagree with? It just logically. So, yeah, that's why you kind of go with that bump down theory. But he definitely projects as the left tackle guy, and that's the piece that's hardest to find because, again, simplifying things, the best athlete with the best feet to handle the turbocharged pass rusher. Eventually, someone's going to see the fast guy. It's usually from the blind side, and whether it be a linebacker type or whatever, if you can't handle speed off the edge, good night in the passing game.
Yeah, Oni Onwa fits all the characteristics. Well, I mean, we'll get exactly height and weight on him at some point, but I've seen 6'7". Got great experience, like you said.
What actually killed me there is I was trying to give you some video of Oni Onwa. If I didn't butcher his name, I don't know if you want to play it here for a second, but just maybe 3 plays of him playing, you can get a feel for what he looks like. Yeah. The Rice is in blue there, and if you look over on the left side, you see his big body. This is the game cut up. So when you're going for these transfer portal, there's not a lot of cut up tape video out there. I'll see if we get an arrow on him over here on the left side. You see the big side right there.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, you get a picture of what he looks like. So give the Bucknutters a little inside preview of what they're getting there.
It's interesting. We talk about the ability to move from tackle to guard. And that just lets you know how good Donovan Jackson is. The fact that he's gone from guard to left tackle and handled it, that's not common. Sleeper MVP of the year, Donovan Jackson, for coming through. Anybody who predicted we'd be going to the playoffs with Donovan Jackson at left tackle, I need some advice on a bet to make long-term. I'd like some advice on that. Sometimes
a natural guard or a center even has such great feet, then in a pinch, you can pull them out the tackle. Now, it doesn't look right on paper. Okay, 6'2", 6'3", but the feet match the prototype out there. Because I've seen that in the NFL a couple times with how are they getting away with this shorter guy on the edge, and then you watch the feet, and you're like, oh, yeah. So that's kind of how that works out there. So as you say, that's such a tough transition. His feet is what made it possible.
Mark, we appreciate that. Okay, Bill, question. As they now turn to their continued shopping list, and like we said, this is uncharted waters. Keep in mind, you're going to have 4 teams eliminated this next game. And so they'll have their 5-day window of guys leaving the portal, leaving their teams for the portal. So a new batch of guys. But right now, Bill, if you were to talk about who Ohio State is really focused on in the portal, there's a lot of questions about Zachariah Branch, the California speedster who went to USC. Although it does seem like he and his older brother are a package deal. And his older brother, I don't think, is a Buckeye-flavored prospect. But have you heard anything on Zach Branch? The one thing Ohio State has really not had is like that specialist return guy, and he can do that.
Yeah, I just think, as you originally said, from everything I'm told, is I would be really, really shocked if those two don't go to the same school. Yeah. I just would be totally shocked. And I don't think Ohio State is shopping for both of them, so to speak. Brian Hartline has not been a portal guy at all. And why should he need to be a portal guy? He doesn't need to be a portal guy. So, I think I just don't think the match is there overall. And Arizona State has been mentioned with the two, and Georgia. I think the match is better for those two at one of those schools than it is Ohio State. Again, I never like to say never in recruiting. I just don't see it, though, right now.
Sean OD 413, thank you. Branch Brothers were on IG Live yesterday and said they are a package deal. Well, that's cool. It's just not,
also, Dan, I might want to mention that I've kind of heard that for that package, you're going to have an incredible offer. That package is not going to come for
it's pennies on the dollar. It's not a 2-for-1 deal, Bill?
Yeah.
It's not BOGO. What do they call that? Buy one, get one free? It's not that?
Not quite.
I'm not surprised. What do you guys think about the addition of Max Clare? There's no question Max Clare will be the most game-ready tight end on the roster beginning next season in terms of being an option. You've got Will Kazmarek, you've got Jelani Thurman, you've got Demarion Witten. What do you guys think happened with both of those guys? And Bill, have you heard anything? And if not, just kind of your thoughts on the tight end situation. Mark, you can take that to start.
Yeah, I think you got to look at tight ends as different, like a Swiss Army knife. They have different roles. Some are the move tight end. Kazmarek's our offensive tackle at tight end. You don't see him much in the passing game, but you see him doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And G. Scott has been the receiving tight end. When we lose G, it looks like Thurman could play that role. Max Clare, if you were with us before Christmas, I said is the more balanced tight end. He can go get it done in the passing game. Obviously led his team in receiving with 53 receptions, I believe, which is pretty good number for a tight end on a.
He was the number one guy in their offense, put it that way.
Yeah, so you're going to get more of a dual role out of him, but I think you could use those other guys for their strengths. Maybe you have Thurman do a little more receiving. Like I said at the end of that podcast, when you bring in someone that's going to take reps, maybe not even start, but just it eats away from someone else. And Thurman and the guys below Thurman are the guys that take the brunt of this. But I think there are 3 tight end situations. I mean, there's a lot of ways to use those guys and keep them, happy and around the goal line, third down situations. There's even been, I've seen 4 tight end packages, but I think it was just to make a point back in the day. But, you'd like to see more tight ends be involved here.
Kazmarek is a senior. He has actually a year of eligibility remaining, so it's his choice. Yeah. We shall see. William, your thoughts on the tight end situation? Go ahead.
They specifically recruit not just for tight ends. They absolutely recruit for, as Mark mentioned, specifically what the person can do. Example, Brody Lennon. He's not coming to Ohio State as a tight end. He's coming as a guy that can split out, that can be an H-back, that can line up as the multi-purpose guy. On the other hand, Nate Roberts, the other guy in the class, he is coming into Ohio State specifically as the prototype tight end. So they specifically recruit. And that, to be honest, that makes it easier to recruit. If you tell a guy, hey, you could come in and be this guy, the multi-purpose guy, the split out guy, and then the other guy, you prototype tight end, that gives you 2 chances there to recruit for that position. So they absolutely recruit that way. Demarion Witten, by the way, he pretty much switched to wide receiver this year. And coming out of high school, he absolutely thought of himself as a receiver, not a prototype tight end.
Yeah, G. Scott and Demarion Witten have a lot in common to me. I don't think Witten wants to be characterized as a tight end.
Absolutely not.
That's a label that people don't like. If you want to know why, when you get a chance, go to spottrack.com and Google average salary of an NFL wide receiver and average salary of an NFL tight end. They're not the same. They're not even close. There's a reason Brock Bowers went in the teens when he might be the best tight end in football right now. They just don't pay those guys. But he is similar in terms of body type. Mark, wouldn't you say? I think Demarion Witten's ceiling is a little bit higher than G. Scott's as an offensive player. Am I getting out of hand there?
Yeah, Witten is more of a receiver. Like G, the last 2 years, his body transformation, he embraced adding the weight and being a blocker, even if he was just getting down on linebackers and downfield on guys. The Glenville coaches are adamant Witten's a receiver. His body of work was receiver-like, and we'll see what happens. You put him in the room with Hartline, and, he could make some magic with that body. In either case for Witten, there's a little bit of a path to get the playing time. So you better find a niche. And like Bill said, this H-back role, one of these guys could end up being the fullback. One of them could be the guy that we know you're going to play right behind the quarterback, traditional fullback role. And you could use 2 or 3 of these guys quite often. I think the Nate Roberts, like Bill said, he is the prototype.
Oh, yeah.
Really do it all. I mean, he's the one that looks like he is special. And if they develop him, just like the guy at Penn State and Michigan, those 2 first and second team, he kind of could be that type of player. I mean, I love tight end play. The kid at Penn State blows me away, and same with the kid at Michigan. I mean, they really are. I can't wait to see them as NFL guys.
I said this on the show recently, though. Those guys were first and second team All Big Ten. Third team All Big Ten, Ohio State tight end Max Clare. He did it in Purdue uniform. But still, that's almost obnoxious to Purdue. We're using them like the Kansas City. I've said this. It's like the New York Yankees back in the day would go to the Kansas City Royals and be like, we'll take Roger Maris. Thank you very little. And then we're doing this now with other Big Ten teams. It's absolutely fantastic. All right. Let's see what other questions we have up here. Yeah, a lot of people talking about Jelani Thurman and the questions, will he stay or not? What's interesting about the portal here is it used to be if you added a guy in the portal, one would want to leave. I almost think that's gotten tamped down now with the amount of people going into the portal and the movement. You can't be making your decisions based on others now as much with all the variables. And we've seen what they did with McCants and such. Go ahead, Mark.
I just had a note on Max Clare, like he's class of 2022. And the question that inevitably gets asked is, why didn't we take him right out of high school? Looking back at that class, does anyone remember Elijah Brown from Wayne High School? He went to Alabama as a tight end, okay? Josh Caddis, the Moeller tight end, ended up going to Kentucky. And then there were guys like Brody Foley from Anderson that went to Indiana, and Ryan Miller that went to Indiana. Sean Ward was Dartmouth, and, it kind of dropped off from there. And then there's Max Clare in that bunch. So Charlie Henrich went to Purdue also. Not like a great tight end class, but even some of these other guys just weren't as developed, and that's the problem coming out of high school is if you're a year or 2 behind, you miss out on the big ride.
Also, these are human beings, and people don't grow at the same rate. You could look totally different at 20 that you look at 18, that you look at 22. That's why recruiting is so difficult. You could pass on a guy, and the day after you pass on him, you get hit a growth spurt. Who knows?
So I have Max Clare listed at 6'4", 225, and then now in the database he is 6'4", 240. So he's added probably 15 to 20 pounds of better body.
All right, let's try and kick some questions in here. If you got questions, let's hear them. All right. Mika asks, and you guys can handle this. Do we offer Landry Brede? I think we need to, in my opinion. Mark, if you could tell us who he is and what you think of him, and then William, you could hop in with Ohio State's vibes. That'd be great.
Yeah, we went to Menor to see him play offensive tackle. I think maybe week 13 of the playoffs. I think they beat St. Ignatius that night. And he is all it's advertised. In person, he is as big and strong as he looks on tape. His feet are very active. I got to talk to his coaches about him at recruiting night. They believe he is an Ohio State caliber offensive tackle, and it's just a matter of time, until he gets in focus. So, there's other things that are more important right now than high school recruiting. But we kind of said, let's put him in with the big 4 or 5 this year. So in that class, I think we'll see his name. And if it takes to camp, that wouldn't surprise me. But if we have extra scholarships, I'm putting my weight in towards Landry.
Bill? William?
We lose.
I think one of your grandchildren hit the mute button. We can't hear you, Bill. Turn your volume up.
Can't hear me?
Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. He's a 2026 offensive lineman, Landry Brede. He's part of a very good offensive line class for the state of Ohio 2026. As Mark said, he's pretty darn good. I mean, you got Sam Greer out there. You've got Maxwell Riley out there. You've got Adam Guthrie out there. All have Ohio State offers. So, Landry Brede maybe gets overshadowed a little bit, but he's a pretty talented kid. He's got offers already from schools like Michigan State, Florida, Pitt, Northwestern. So he's got some really pretty darn good offers. I don't know that I see him necessarily as a tackle. He might be, but he's 6'5" right now, at least in high school, which means maybe he's not quite 6'5". So we'll see if he could play guard or if he could end up at guard in college. But I agree with Mark. He's somebody to keep an eye on for sure.
So
Bruce Beals is the kind of guy you bring to a party and makes like the joke that you're not supposed to make, that you like, that your friends make, that everyone thinks of. Anyway, go ahead.
I think Bill had his doctor appointment the day we did this, but we went through that 26 offensive line class, and Bill mentioned the top of it. But Conroy obviously has signed with Oklahoma now. Pete Iglesias, and I hope I say his name right, at Bishop Watterson is another name that's just a mauler. Andrew Baggett at Chardon. Eli Sanchez, I really liked at Sandusky Perkins. And then Jameer Perez was the Glenville player that we looked at camp this year that was, transitioning from O-line to D-line, and he's another name. So this class gets a little deeper and deeper. I even threw out Arthur Scott and Cooper Richmond at Streetsboro as inside guys, maybe centers and guards. Mason Wilhelm, an Ohio State legacy at St. Ed's, he just started picking up offers I saw on Twitter. Pretty good looking class. I'm trying to see if there's any other names we should probably. Benjamin Cogden, Bill. I just got an offer from Miami of Florida. I think he has 17 offers. He and his brother were both at the Ohio State camp last summer from Tuscarawas Valley High School, 6'7", 290 pounds. His brother was just as big. I think his brother just signed FCS or D2. But he'll be another developing lineman to take a look at this summer.
And also, you say developing, Mark. Remember, these guys are 2026 guys. There's still time. And I'll say one person's name to keep in mind when you think about development. Jake Cook. When he was at the same point as these 2026 guys, he was not an Ohio State caliber guy. He really did a great job of transforming his body, getting better. And when I saw him this season as compared to a year prior to that, there was a world of difference in Jake Cook.
Jake Cook is that 7th or 8th grader that looks like he's a senior in 7th and 8th grade. And he got too big too soon, if you remember. And we all say the polite way of saying that is he grew into his body. But coming out of 7th and 8th grade, he was enormous to the point of over-enormous. And he backed all that off. It all, like you say, you lose the baby fat, the chubby cheeks are gone. He looks like a man. The chiseled body starts to happen. And then because he had carried so much weight for so long, the athlete underneath that came out, and that was kind of that. So, and you see that with a lot of these long guys. I think some of these guys we just mentioned are so long that they need to really get in the weight room. I think that's what we were waiting for on the kid from Miami, Trace.
I'll tell you what, Jake Cook has a mean streak in him, though. I can tell you that. If you watch his tape, that is not a fun matchup for overmatched Central Ohio defensive lineman, that's for sure. Let's go rapid fire here. There are some common themes that are being asked. One, Justice Haynes, the running back from Georgia that went to
Michigan,
Alabama. Son of Veron Haynes, the former Pittsburgh Steelers running back. I believe he's a Georgia native. I want to say Buford High School. It took me a while to get that out. He has transferred to Michigan, Bill. People were hoping he would come to Ohio State. They already got C.J. Donaldson from West Virginia. So I think they're filled up there in terms of the portal. Your thoughts on Justice Haynes? Was he ever really a target for the Buckeyes?
I mean, there was mutual interest.
Bill, your volume, your kids are messing with the volume again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There was mutual interest, but it never got to the point where he even made a visit to Ohio State. And then as soon as C.J. Donaldson did make that visit and got into the class, that closed the door. I mean, they were not going to bring. There was never the goal to bring in 2 transfer portal running backs. That was never the goal. It was to bring in 1 running back from the portal because they need experience, talent and experience, but they needed experience, and that's what they got in Donaldson. And Donaldson's a great complement to what they have. He's the power. They've got guys like Turbo Rogers for the combo position, James Peoples, who is not necessarily a power guy. They've got those guys. They needed a more powerful back, and they got a guy. And kudos again to, I've talked about this before, kudos again to Carlos Lachlan. What a spectacular job of recruiting he has done. A 3 running back class that's really a 2025 class that really has it all. You've got Bo Jackson, you've got Isaiah West, and you got Turbo Rogers, all 3 completely different guys. And then he brings in a guy from the portal that they liked a lot, with a lot of experience and a lot of productivity, really. So Carlos Lachlan has done a super job in his first year recruiting for Ohio State.
John Gorby asks the key question here: does Judkins stay for another year? That is Carlos Laughlin's number 1 offseason recruiting target. So we shall see. I know that there is a desire to bring Judkins back. We shall see where they go with that. Certainly been nice to have him in the fold this year. All right, next question. Bill, do you think they bring in another quarterback? So let's take stock of where we're at. Will Howard is our starter. Devin Brown is the backup. He is leaving. Julian Sand is the next one up. He's expected to be here. Then you have Lincoln Keenholz. He's still here. Aaron Nolan, he's gone. So that's my 5. So for next year, I get 2 of those. Do we need a third, or does Tavian St. Clair hop in as quarterback 3, William?
Well, right now, I think Tavian St. Clair is quarterback 3, and he has already worked. He was an early graduate. He was on the sideline for the Ohio State-Tennessee game. Before that, he had his first workout with Mick Marotti's staff, with the strength and conditioning staff. They want him to be in the fold as quick as possible and get up to speed. He has been in team meetings. He has been someone that's been around the program a lot. He is now starting to practice. And I think he will be they want some of the guys that signed early and that have already been graduating all to go out to California to the Rose Bowl with them. Now, they're not going to be on the field. They're not going to be in uniform, but go and experience everything with the team, because they can do that. They are allowed to do that. And I certainly expect him to be one of those guys. So right now, he's the guy, as you put it, Dan, the number 3 guy.
We've got a Michigan troll in here, Mac Evans, who struggles with the English language. Over/under percentage chances that he actually attended Michigan. That looks like a Walmart Wolverine if I've ever seen one. All right. Lincoln Keenholz, I guess, is going to be the last man standing there. That'll be interesting. We know.
I think that kind of shows you maybe as long as Lincoln Keenholz stays, maybe he feels like he's got a shot to be the guy, or at least at worst, the backup, which is one play away from being the guy.
All right, we're going to take one more question, and then we're going to show you a tease of the second half of Buckeye in the Sky from the wonderful game over the weekend. We are finishing that up. The Christmas break gave us a little delay there, but let's ask this question, William, and it's one a lot of people are asking. Kicker from portal, ? Obviously, we've had some special teams tomfoolery this year, and there's a desire by many to get a new kicker. Do you think they'll be aggressive with that in the portal, Bill? Is that something they're waiting on, et cetera?
I think they will bring someone in if they can get someone.
You must have a loose wire.
You got a loose wire, Billy. Still loose. Still loose.
Well, I think they will bring someone in as long as they feel confident that that guy is good enough. They're not going to bring in bodies that can't compete. And they have been looking at guys since last summer when they brought a bunch of 2025 and 2026 kickers in. And I would get to the camps early and watch those guys kick. They were all out on the field, the Woody Ace facility, kicking for the Ohio State coaches. And they will look in the portal. But right now they have not, at least to my knowledge, and I'm pretty sure this is correct, they have not brought a kicker in for an official visit from the portal. But as you mentioned at the very beginning of the show, Dan, the portal will get additions as teams get knocked out of the playoffs and the bowl games and all that end and all. There's going to be more guys that get into the portal. The 28th, this Saturday, is the day the portal closes, but you get 5 additional days once you get knocked out of the playoffs, for instance.
And Bill, let's go over this real quick. The portal's going to reopen before next season starts.
Right.
Can you get some?
And it'll be, in the springtime, it'll be open again too, by the way, for I think it's 9 more days, I believe, if I remember right.
So I think
there's time.
I think what you can expect to happen is this first run is the major pieces. And then between now and Ohio State's next entrance into the transfer portal, keep in mind, they're going to be one of those teams that has the 5-day window where guys can leave. And you're going to have a lot of guys chatting with teams about possibly entering the portal in the second wave there. I don't have any concerns. Put it this way. We have to give Ohio State the benefit of the doubt at this point that they're going to end up getting someone to fill all of the questions that Mika is asking about, the major ones. After that, if there's boutique shopping, I get it. But if they determine they need a kicker, my guess is they'll go get the best possible kicker. All right. That's pretty statement of the obvious there. We did Buckeye in the Sky Part 1. It was glorious. We're going to do Buckeye in the Sky Part 2. Guess what? They still win. Take us through, Mark, for a little bit of love here.
Yeah, this clip here, we're just pointing out where Lathan Ransom is for the importance of the safety being down in the box there. And when we let this play go here, it's going to be an option play. And you can see that all these linebackers are up because we're really sending some heat. We're in man-to-man behind it, so this is a pressure defense. When you try to get to the edge here, you usually leave this defensive end unblocked, and when the quarterback gets to him, you pitch. That means you got to pin those linebackers inside it, and it's just simply a mismatch for an offensive tackle to run with the defensive back, and that's all that happened on this play. Rantham just outflanked the offensive tackle and in the backfield, and that's a nice physical takedown of a great running back there.
Hold on a second, Mark. If you go, that was 3rd and 7. That was a big play. That was the first drive of the second half in which we said, at least I said to everyone in my family, this is the biggest defensive drive for this team in a few years. And they came out with a 3-and-out. That was 3rd down. I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
And it says a lot that they ran the ball there on a long yardage 3rd down instead of throwing it. I think as I broke down more of this tape, their quarterback was seeing ghosts. He was panicked. He had happy feet. There would be a few instances on this tape, but I think they lost confidence in him. Tennessee here is in a 3-4 defense. Those are the 3 defensive linemen. The 4 linebackers behind him, you can see it. The linebacker on the edge is the one coming to the top of the screen. So there's your 4-man pass rush, and it's a pretty standard. What they're going to do over the top of it is rotate to a cover 3, where the corner at the top of the field is going to be in the flats. This is a really simple high school concept where you're going to use your bottom receiver there to just run that DB out of the picture. And once that defensive back's there, there's no one on that side of the field. I'd use a nice little graphic there to show that. So if you run an out route there and you have leverage on that safety, you just got to hold the flat defender with the flat, and there will be a giant void in this defense. And I'd like to point out how the route here where G. Scott gets down the middle, and it looks like he's going vertical, but when he snaps it out, he pulls right off the butt of this receiver. Up here, you see the flat defender going for the running back, and there is so much room to throw this ball. This is great play design, great execution. I mean, how often do you see a guy that wide open in college football and 3 defenders essentially helpless right around him? So nice play design there. This is probably the coolest play. If you can see this, I think right now, I'm going to pause it. Will Howard and Jeremiah are communicating. You see a real subtle Jeremiah taps his thigh board, and you see Will looking at him, and you know they make eye contact. What are they making eye contact over? And we'll wait for this to slow down so you can see it. You got a press corner, and you have a safety inside the hash, which means over the top there to the end zone, there's going to be a void. Guys, this is an all-out run play. This was called counter. Will and Jeremiah did that on their own. And the reason you know it's a run play is look where the center is at downfield blocking, okay? There isn't an offensive lineman who's in a pass set trying to pass block. The other receivers are blocking. So this is Will and Jeremiah before the snap saying, we're going to take this downtown. And, boy, what a ball. I mean, it was like a handoff, and he just placed it into his hands. I don't even know if you had to catch that. So that was about as – what that tells me is Chip Kelly and the coaches have a ton of confidence in Will Howard's mental ability to see that, and – of course, Jeremiah Smith's ability to win. So you're pulling that on a run play. Right here we have the Ohio State defense and man-to-man cover 1. Okay, and then you can see that – well, I'll pause this for a second. That when you have a running back in the backfield and you have 2 middle linebackers, you kind of have to have both linebackers watch that guy. And if the running back goes to your side, you'll have a man-to-man. If the running back goes to my side, I'll have a man-to-man. And you work on that type of communication in practice. Now, if the running back doesn't go to your side or he blocks, you have an alternate assignment. And that becomes important on this because the linebackers here, when they see this running back block, they're just going to drop in the zones right here, almost like a quarterback spy. They almost have no responsibility because the running back's blocking. They do a great job here. And this is Cody Simon, I believe, that gets up here and just reads the quarterback and bats it down. Or he has an open dig where he could have thrown the strike in there. So just a headsy play when you don't have an assignment and you kind of make your assignment work. So plenty of more of that to watch when it comes out later today on Bucknuts. I know the premium subscribers eat that stuff up and they get a real deep dive into these games. But another good look at the Buckeye in the sky.
I apologize for having my head down there. I was looking through my phone for a picture, and the picture is of me and Julian Sayin. And it was right as I walked into the foundation party this past spring, because people are asking about his height and saying he's not 6 foot. He is literally, it's another chance for me to talk. He's about the exact same size as my son. So 6'1" and change, you can list him at 6'2". He's not 6 foot. I can tell you that right now. He's taller than that.
I have a picture of him with my son, and the same thing. He's above 6 foot. He's a 6'1" kid. Yeah.
And someone with his cleats on, 6'2", 6'3".
And Alan Saunders is kind of stealing my thunder here. I would love if Julian Sayin was just like Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. I think that would be a great comp. I think I'm getting ahead of us here with the previews of the game. Dylan Gabriel is as good a quarterback as you're going to see in college football. And I don't care if he's 6 foot 6'1". Yeah, he's a 200, 210 pounder. And yeah, like I worry about him, but I think Julian Sayin is cut from that exact same mold, and we just haven't seen it. You get Sayin up there around 200 pounds, and that ball will be coming out. But watch Dylan Gabriel and cross your fingers that that's what we have coming.
I think
just hope he doesn't have a great night this weekend.
So keep in mind, and I get people are worried about his frame and stuff. I think what people are really worried about is he skipped that ball in the game. And then everyone's like, oh, my God, he has no arm strength. Come on, man. Come on. They Chip Kelly and Ryan Day and the receivers and such, they get a chance to see Sayin in practice more often than we do, and they seem pretty confident. So skipping one ball in a game means literally nothing. Although there's a first, when you see it, you're like, oh, and then you're like, wait a minute, serenity now. Keep in mind also, these guys aren't taking the field for Ohio State for another 7 months, 8 months. I could do my math here. That time is going to be spent in the weight room. How many time elapsed photos of guys in the weight room did you need to see with Mick? They've got Julian Sayin in there. He's getting, turkey and cheese sandwiches too before he goes to bed every night. They know what needs to be done. Got to put some junk in the trunk there. I think he'll be in good shape. I do think a quarterback whose shackles, if those were on him, are taken off a little earlier in the season with the receivers we have and a guy like Sayin to distribute could be pretty awesome. All right. I think we're going to take it off. Obviously, we've got some Michigan trolls in here. We're over 1,000 viewers. I'd like to thank the Michigan viewers for getting us up into bonus territory. Once again, so giving. Can't grow thighs. I understand you can't grow thighs, but you can thicken up. And keep in mind also, Julian Sayin is how old? 18, 19 years old. Do you remember being 18 or 19 there, Mr. Emerson? Looks like your thighs may have gotten girthy. They probably weren't as big as 18 as they were at 20. You get a little old man strength in your body. These guys are getting NIL. They're paying taxes. Nothing gives you old man strength like paying taxes. Okay?
And Dylan Gabriel's a little older than 20, too.
Is he? He's older than 22. He's probably
he's a little older than 20
as well. I'm saying.
Also.
He is. And
he's also older than 22 for that matter, I believe.
Exactly. And if Dylan Gabriel had another year of eligibility, guess where he'd be? College football, because he's going to get paid more this year than probably next year. All right. We could go on forever here. We appreciate you guys stopping by. Hope everyone had a great holiday. Dave and Jay Book will be here tomorrow with bells on. Have a good one. Bucknutters, Bruce.